It was a cold winter evening. The streets were quiet, and the city lights flickered in the distance. People were rushing home, holding their coats tight and walking fast. But on one corner of the city, sitting alone beside a broken bench, was a homeless man named Daniel. Daniel had no home, no family, and no money. He only had an old torn blanket and a small bag with a few pieces of stale bread. Every day, Daniel sat on the same spot, watching people pass by. Most of them didn't even look at him. Some looked at him with pity, others with disgust. But Daniel was used to this. It didn't hurt anymore, or at least that's what he told himself. He would spend his nights under the bridge or behind the supermarket where it was quiet and safe. Some days he got lucky and found half-eaten food in the trash. Other days, he would just sleep with an empty stomach. But Daniel never complained. He had learned to survive, even with nothing. That evening, as the cold wind blew harder, Daniel wrapped the blanket around himself tighter. He hadn't eaten anything since morning. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He looked up at the gray sky and whispered, "Just one more meal today, please." Suddenly, he heard a faint sound. It was soft, almost like a whimper. He looked around, but there was no one. Again, he heard it. A weak, painful cry, like that of a child or an animal. Daniel stood up slowly and followed the sound. It led him to a nearby alley, dark and wet. The smell of garbage was strong, and broken bottles lay scattered on the ground. Then he saw something move under an old parked car. Daniel bent down and saw a small stray dog, dirty, thin, and shivering. Its fur was covered in mud, and one of its legs looked injured. The dog looked up at Daniel with big, scared eyes. It didn't bark or growl. It just stared at him, as if asking for help. Daniel's heart ached. He had nothing to give, but he still reached into his bag and pulled out the last piece of bread. He broke it in half and gently placed it near the dog. "It's okay, buddy," he whispered. "You can have it. I'm not hungry." The dog sniffed the bread, looked at Daniel again, and slowly limped forward. It ate the bread quickly, still watching Daniel carefully. After eating, it sat beside the car, but didn't run away. Daniel sat on the ground, not too close but not too far. "What happened to you?" he asked softly. "Did someone leave you here?" The dog tilted its head, as if trying to understand. Daniel gave a small smile. "You're not the only one who's been left behind," he said. As the minutes passed, the dog inched closer, slowly trusting Daniel. Finally, it rested its head on his knee. For a moment, Daniel forgot about the cold, the hunger, and the loneliness. There was something about the dog, something broken yet beautiful. He gently stroked its dirty fur. "You know what?" he whispered. "You're not alone anymore. I'll take care of you." He named the dog Lucky, though he didn't know why. Maybe it was because finding the dog made him feel lucky, or maybe because he hoped Lucky would bring some luck into his life. That night, Daniel didn't sleep alone under the bridge. Lucky curled up beside him, using his arm as a pillow. The city was still loud and uncaring, but for the first time in a long time, Daniel felt warmth in his heart. But something inside him also felt strange. It was a feeling he hadn't had in years. Hope. He didn't know it yet, but that little act of kindness, that one small moment of feeding the stray dog, was about to change his life forever. The next morning, Daniel woke up to a soft lick on his cheek. He opened his eyes slowly, and there was Lucky, wagging his tail gently, eyes full of trust. It brought a small smile to Daniel's face, the kind he hadn't felt in years. "Good morning, little buddy," he said softly, rubbing the dog's head. Lucky let out a happy little bark, almost as if he understood every word. For the first time in a long while, Daniel didn't feel completely alone. Lucky followed him everywhere that day. Whether he was walking through the park or digging through trash behind restaurants, the small dog never left his side. People still ignored Daniel, but they noticed Lucky. especially children who smiled at the sight of the wagging tail and curious eyes. Some kind strangers even tossed them bits of food, not because of Daniel, but because of the dog, and that was fine with him. Lucky was the reason they both had something to eat that day. In the following days, the bond between them grew stronger. Daniel talked to Lucky like he was his best friend, telling him stories about his past, his dreams, and the people he used to know. Lucky never spoke, but his presence was louder than words. One night, as they sat under the bridge, Daniel said quietly, "I don't know where you came from, Lucky, but I feel like you were sent to me." Lucky looked up at him and rested his head on Daniel's lap. A wave of emotion washed over the man. He had lost so much in life. His job, his home, his family. But now he had something again. Someone who cared. Someone to protect. But then something unexpected happened. While walking past a neighborhood wall, Daniel saw a bright poster glued to the side. It read, "Lost dog, reward, $5,000. Small brown dog with white spots. Answers to the name Max. Missing since 2 weeks. If found, call immediately." There was a photo too. Daniel froze. The dog in the picture looked exactly like Lucky. He leaned closer, staring at the eyes in the photo. They were the same. Warm, innocent, and sad. His heart sank. Could it be? Could Lucky be someone else's dog? He looked down at Lucky, who stood beside him, tail wagging as always. Daniel sat on the sidewalk, staring at the flyer. 1,000 thoughts raced through his mind. If this was really Lucky's owner, then returning the dog could mean a fresh start for him. $5,000 was more money than he had seen in years. He could buy food, clothes, maybe even rent a small room. It was enough to change his life. But then he looked into Lucky's eyes again, and something inside him broke. How could he give him away? This dog had become his family. They had built a life together, no matter how hard it was. Daniel remembered the night Lucky curled up next to him in the freezing cold, the soft licks when he was crying, the loyalty, the quiet understanding. He whispered, "What should I do, Lucky?" Lucky just sat down and licked Daniel's hand. For the next few days, Daniel avoided the area with the flyer. He tried to convince himself that Lucky wasn't the same dog, that maybe it was just a coincidence. But deep down, he knew the truth. Every time he fed Lucky or watched him sleep, a painful thought returned. What if someone is missing him just as much as I needed him? The city didn't stop. Cars kept moving, people kept walking, and life went on. But inside Daniel's heart, a war was going on. He had nothing, and he finally had something. But was it truly his to keep? One evening, as the sun dipped behind the tall buildings, Daniel sat with Lucky in his lap and said, "Maybe doing the right thing is harder than surviving." He had made a decision. Tomorrow, he would call the number. He didn't know what would happen, but he knew one thing. No matter what, he would do what was best for Lucky, even if it meant losing the only joy he had found in years. The next morning was unusually quiet. The sky was cloudy, and a cold wind brushed against Daniel's face. He hadn't slept well. His heart was heavy. Today, he had decided to do something that might break him. Return Lucky. He had memorized the number from the flyer, but he didn't have a phone. So he walked all the way to a nearby gas station, where a kind worker sometimes let him use the landline. With Lucky by his side, he waited outside for the manager to arrive. When the manager finally opened the door, Daniel politely asked, "Sir, could I please make one phone call? It's very important." The manager nodded. "Just one call. Make it quick." Daniel stepped inside and dialed the number with shaky fingers. His heart pounded as it rang once, twice. Then someone picked up. "Hello," said a man's voice. Daniel swallowed hard. I think I'd found your dog. The one on the poster." There was silence for a moment. Then the man spoke again, his voice full of hope. "Are you serious? Where are you?" Is he okay? He's fine, Daniel replied. I've been taking care of him. We're near Hillview Bridge. If you want, you can come see for yourself. I'll be there in 20 minutes, the man said quickly and ended the call. Daniel stepped outside and looked down at Lucky, who wagged his tail as usual, unaware of what was about to happen. Daniel knelt down and gently patted him. You're going home today, boy. Maybe. Lucky licked his face. Daniel smiled sadly. 20 minutes later, a black Mercedes-Benz slowly rolled to a stop near the bridge. The windows were tinted, and the car looked expensive, far too expensive for the kind of people Daniel ever met. The door opened, and a tall, well-dressed man stepped out. He had kind eyes but a tired face. He looked around until his gaze landed on Lucky. The moment he saw the dog, his eyes widened. "Max," he whispered. Lucky paused for a second. Then his ears perked up. In an instant, he ran to the man and jumped into his arms. The man dropped to his knees, hugging the dog tightly. Tears streamed down his face. "Max, I thought I lost you forever." Daniel stood a few feet away, his heart aching. He had prepared himself for this, but it still hurt more than he expected. He watched silently as the man held Lucky like a lost child. After a long moment, the man looked up at Daniel. "You found him?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah. He was hiding under a car, hungry and scared. I fed him, and, well, we've been together since." The man stood up, still holding the dog. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to," Daniel said quietly. "Just take good care of him." There was a long pause. Then the man spoke, his voice softer. "His name is Max. He belonged to my daughter. She died in a car accident 2 weeks ago. Max was with her. He ran away the night it happened. We searched everywhere. I thought he was gone too." Daniel's eyes widened. I'm so sorry. I didn't know." The man wiped his eyes. "It's okay. I believe you were meant to find him." He looked at Daniel closely now. The worn clothes, the tired eyes, the humble heart. "You've been taking care of him, feeding him, loving him. That means everything to me." He glanced down at Max, who, surprisingly, was now tugging gently at his leash, walking back toward Daniel. "It looks like he doesn't want to leave you," the man said, surprised. Daniel smiled and crouched down as Max jumped into his lap once again. The man hesitated for a moment, then said something that would change Daniel's life forever. "Would you consider coming with us? I could use someone like you. Someone with a good heart. Max clearly trusts you, and I can tell you've been through a lot. Maybe we can help each other." Daniel looked up, shocked. "Are you serious?" "I'm completely serious," the man replied. "Come home with us. No more sleeping on the street. Let me give you the life you deserve." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He looked at Max, who barked happily, then back at the man. Maybe, just maybe, this was his second chance. Daniel stood there in silence, unsure if he had heard the man correctly. Was this really happening? Just days ago, he was sitting alone on a cold street, with no one beside him. Now, a stranger, rich and kind, was offering him a place to stay, a job, and most importantly, a new beginning. Max, or Lucky as Daniel still called him in his heart, barked happily and rubbed against Daniel's leg. It was as if the little dog was saying, "Say yes. This is our moment." The man, whose name was Mr. Bennett, smiled warmly. "Let's go home, Daniel. You and Max belong with me now." With tears in his eyes and hope in his heart, Daniel nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll come with you." Mr. Bennett opened the car door, and Daniel sat inside for the first time in many years. It felt strange. Clean seats, soft cushions, warm air. Max jumped up beside him, tail wagging, as if celebrating this new chapter. The drive was quiet. Daniel stared out of the window, watching the city pass by. For the first time, The streets didn't feel cold. They didn't feel empty. Something inside him was changing. For the first time in years, he didn't feel invisible. When they reached the house, Daniel's eyes widened. It wasn't just a house. It was a large, beautiful home, with flowers blooming in the yard and warm lights glowing through the windows. He had never imagined stepping into a place like this. Mr. Bennet showed him around, and then led him to a small guest room. "It's not much," Mr. Bennet said, "but it's yours now." Daniel looked around. The room had a clean bed, fresh clothes, and a small desk by the window. To him, it wasn't small at all. It was everything he had dreamed of. That night, Daniel lay in bed with Max sleeping beside him. He stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. So much had changed so fast. A few days ago, he had nothing. And now he had a warm bed, a safe place, a loving dog, and even a second chance at life. But the best part, he still had Max. In the morning, Mr. Bennet sat with Daniel at breakfast. "I want to offer you something," he said. "I have a private animal shelter. We rescue dogs who are lost or abandoned. I want you to help me run it. Max trusts you, and I trust Max." Daniel's hands trembled. "You want me to work with dogs?" "Yes," Mr. Bennet smiled. "You understand them, and they'll understand you. I think you're the perfect person for this." Daniel couldn't hold back his tears. "No one's ever said that to me before." Mr. Bennet placed a hand on his shoulder. Sometimes the best people are the ones who've suffered the most, because they know how to love deeply. Weeks passed, and Daniel began working at the shelter. He fed the dogs, cleaned their space, played with them, and made each one feel loved. The other workers admired him for his gentle nature and calm spirit. People who adopted dogs would often ask, "Who's that man? He seems to have a special connection with them." Mr. Bennet would simply reply, "That's Daniel. He's the heart of this place." Daniel's life had truly transformed. He was no longer just a man on the street. He had purpose, he had friends, he had Max, and he had hope. One day, while walking Max in the park, a young boy came up to him and said, "Mister, are you the man who saved the dog from the street?" Daniel smiled and nodded. The boy's eyes lit up. "My mom says you're a hero." Daniel chuckled gently. "I'm just a man who met a special dog on a cold night." As he walked away, Daniel looked down at Max and whispered, "You saved me too, buddy." And in that moment, under the golden sunset, with Max beside him and peace in his heart, Daniel knew one thing for sure. Sometimes life gives us second chances in the most unexpected ways, and sometimes a little kindness can change everything.